this all got kicked off when Jalen Ramsey was traded to the Miami Dolphins.
The first big move.
And it was the first big move, and it's one of those things that we've talked about very, very frequently, that we wanted to see Jalen Ramsey in a Lions uniform.
Mm-hmm.
When that news broke, what was your initial reaction?
A little bit of disappointment finding out what he went for. Just a third rounder and a tight end. Kind of surprising, but I'm okay with it because the Lions at least tried.
Yes.
You know, you see that girl in the club that, you know, you've been watching her. She might be out of your league, and, you know, you maybe want to just take a swing.
I have no idea what you're referencing right now.
You might, for the single people watching, if you were in the club and you see
even
that
when
fine
I was
girl
single,
or that car, you at least want to just see what it takes. You know, see if you got the gusto to make it happen.
I got you.
And the Lions put their chest out, put on their best gear. They tried to, you know, sway it into making a deal. It's a hard market to go up against. I mean, Miami is no state tax, if I'm not mistaken.
No state income tax.
Great weather. I mean, there's a lot of things that Jalen Ramsey couldn't really say no to. We saw the back and forth with him and Tyreek Hill. Looks like they're going to have a pretty good practice session with that talent they got. But the Lions tried, so I wasn't upset. It's a big move for them. And, I mean, we're obviously going to talk about what they did later, but the Lions had a backup plan. So, considering they had a backup plan and gave it a shot, I was okay with it. I'm not going to be too mad they couldn't get Jalen Ramsey.
When I saw it, I was like, a third rounder and a tight end? I would give up 81 in Brock Wright for that.
Me too.
But then it all comes out like that's where Jalen wanted to go. The Lions were in the mix. If he wanted to come to Detroit, he would have come to Detroit. And so at that point, I was like, you know what? That's fine. We don't need him. Like, I mean, yeah, we do need him because he'd be the best corner. But if you don't want to be here, I don't want you here. Right? If you want to be in Miami, then go be in Miami. That's fine. Like, I don't blame the guy. Miami's awesome. My wife and I spent some time there last year, and I read a book on the beach, and it was wonderful. I don't do the water, man. I just sit on the beach.
Wow, you're one of those. Okay, that's fine.
It's not like, listen, when my family came down and visited me in South Carolina after I got done with some training, we went to Myrtle Beach. I got into the ocean with them, but like, if I had the opportunity to like sit on the beach and just chill and do nothing and read a book, that's going to be what I'm going to do. It's not what Jalen Ramsey is going to be doing in Miami, but that's what AJ chooses to do.
That's cool.
In Miami. You know what I'm saying? I've told you, I've never been to a club. I'm not a nightlife kind of guy.
Hence why
it just is.
That whole thing went over your head. I got you.
I would be in bed by 10 o'clock if I lived in Miami, most likely. Or I'd be up to like 2 a.m. working like I am every night now. But it just is what it is, right? And good for Jalen Ramsey. Good for the Dolphins. We don't have to really worry about him being in the AFC unless we meet in the Super Bowl. And he would have to still be able to keep up with J-Mo, which he might not be able to do at his advanced age. So it's actually good that we're not paying an older guy that much money. It's not a huge. It's been a $17 million cap hit. We didn't want that. Like the initial reaction is like, "Oh my gosh, I cannot believe it." But then the Lions were in, and they made a push, and you can't blame them for trying.
I had my eyes go gaga when I saw the news about Matt Patricia potentially landing in Philly, which kept everybody's eyes open about a certain DB maybe leaving, who honestly has been a better cornerback than Jalen Ramsey. Like, Ramsey's been getting beat a lot, especially last season deep. Yeah. So, yeah, that was another reason I wasn't too upset about it. Darius Slay, who maybe still could be on the move, and at this rate, it could be like for a fourth. He's 32 years old. Like, it could be for even cheaper.
But the cap hit would be massive.
Of course.
That would be the only deterrent for him coming to, I think, Detroit, is that number. And that number is something that, you know, we dealt with a lot today and yesterday, putting together this perfect offseason. Like, that's not something to like sniff at. It's really difficult, especially when you got to project what the draft picks are going to make, and the Lions having about $14 million tied up into them, and then subtract, and it's a lot of math. And I felt like the dude from The Hangover at the blackjack table, where numbers are just swirling around my head,
just flying all over.
Yeah, you know, it was interesting, and it got more interesting on Monday. A lot of names that we mentioned often with the Lions.
Yep.
That did not end up in Detroit. And one name that we did not mention that did end up in Detroit. So the Lions go, they get their guy, Sutton from Pittsburgh.
Sutton.
Cam Sutton signed him to a 3-year, $33 million deal. Only a $3.28 million cap hit this year, which is very team friendly. Mm-hmm. And with the voided years and things like that, I was reading it could potentially only be about a 2-year, $22 million deal if it didn't work out. A very friendly contract for a good corner, solid corner. Mm-hmm. Not anything that's gonna like blow your skirt up. No. Not anything that's going to make you, jump for joy, but you're like, okay. Every one of our corners was like bottom tier, and now we've got like a second tier corner who can play inside, who can play outside. What do you like it? Do you not like it? What are your thoughts on the Cam Sutton deal for the Lions?
I give this an A-. I'm okay with this deal. Again, if you go in to free agency and if let's say Jalen Ramsey was their plan, you have to have a backup idea. And it seems like that's what it was. They acted on Sutton fast.
Very fast.
For a player like him who his coaches, who scouts have called the smartest player on the field and has really shown that he's an instinctual player that also was playing behind a great offense or a defensive line as well, playing behind TJ Watt, Cam Hayward, and the stalwart defensive line that they have. Like that's going to have to stay the focal point, and that could still be the focal point for the Lions as they still continue to address the trenches. He's, if I'm not mistaken, 26 years old, so he's not old. Like he's not past his prime. He's not peeking towards it, and it didn't cost you as much as like a Jamel Dean who just got paid by the Bucs, which I'm stunned by. I did not think he was going back there. But
he's 28 years old.
28. Oh, that's still fine. I think that's Ramsey's age.
Well, he just turned 28.
Okay. Yep. No problem with that. Yeah, he's not going to be a shutdown number one guy. You can still maybe make a play in the draft or maybe continue in free agency, maybe. But I'm okay with it. Again, it adds some needed depth for that secondary. It's not a bunch of young guys back there. I like adding him back there for the money that they got him for.
32 receptions on 72 targets in 2022, 44% completion against rate. Tied for the fourth lowest in a season since 2016 with a minimum of 50 targets. That's from ESPN's Next Gen Stats. Yep. Or the NFL's Next Gen Stats. I'm sorry about that. It's a good signing. And it's a good, I think, message too, right? That, okay, we noticed a deficiency and we signed a solid player at a deficient position. Then they followed that up. And before they did that, let's get this. Isaiah Bugg's coming back. I think that's another great signing. That was another guy that we said, hey, internal guys, those are the ones we need to get. Then they signed Alex Anzalone.
Oh, man.
And when I saw that, the balloon that was filling with hope and optimism deflated a little bit.
A little or a lot?
I don't want to be like pessimistic here.
Okay, fine.
So it deflated a little bit. But when you're paying Alex Anzalone 3 years, $18.75 million, $6.25 per year. When he was the leading tackler on your team last year, but that was on a historically bad defense. Somebody had to make tackles.
Yes.
And I don't understand the move at all, and I seriously question the move. Actually, like I understand that they like him, and there was a tweet that somebody put out that said there's no clear evidence of somebody who is the space between somebody who is disliked by a fan group and adored by coaches.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's very true because they love him, and we're all like, what in the world are we doing here?
Yes. He's a good player.
To be your inside linebacker, right? Like, with Bobby Wagner still out there, with Levante David still out there, I understand they're a little bit older, but they're still better.
Yes, they're game breakers. They're versatile. Like, he came on strong in the second half of the season. He was not good as things were struggling. Like, he was not one of the like promising pieces of the defense. Like, he was just kind of serviceable at getting by. And you don't re-sign serviceable to 3 years, 18 mil. Like, I'm not surprised that they brought him back. I am surprised with the money, and I'm very surprised by 3 years. I did not expect that at all. Like, that caught me most by surprise. Was the
we're
duration.
talking about a guy that had a market value of like $3.5 million, and he doubled that.
Yep.
Like, I get liking a guy. I get that he was a captain. I get that there's leadership intangibles and all that included, but
I don't.
I know that we are very trusting of Brad Holmes, and I know that he has a plan. But if this is our inside linebacker for the next 3 years, this defense is still going to struggle.
Yes.
Because he's not fast enough to get out on the edges to cover running backs. He can play the run okay. He's terrible in coverage against tight ends. Like, what are we doing?
This was not it. He's not a blitzer. He's not a game record like that. He's just serviceable. Like, again,
that's a great word for it.
Just serviceable. You don't pay that kind of, the terms for a serviceable player. He's like, we talk about the fan reception of him. Like, if you re-sign him for the fans, like, oh, he's loved and beloved in Ford Field. It's not even that. Like, again, must be something different amongst the locker room reception of him, because I don't see it. He makes a couple good plays. They replayed a lot on Twitter the play he made against Green Bay on that 4th down end around in the first half. Outside of that, he didn't have a whole lot of other big plays in the season. So I can't get super excited about this move. I just can't.
I think, and I'm starting to get the feeling that people are watching Beyond the Box.
Ooh.
And they're listening to Beyond the Box. Because last week we said the Lions are the NFC favorites. Hands down. Because their trajectory is the best. Well, Tremaine Edmonds, my guy.
Yeah, your boy.
He's now a Chicago Bear.
Yep.
TJ Edwards, now a Chicago Bear. Marcus Davenport from New Orleans, now a Minnesota Viking.
DJ Moore also.
DJ Moore, yeah. The Bears made that huge trade of the number 1 pick to Carolina to move back to 9.
That was nuts.
Got a pretty doggone good haul for that, and DJ Moore on a very team-friendly contract.
Yes.
Now, questions still surround Justin Fields, and can he actually get the ball to him?
No, he can't. Well, okay.
I don't think so.
Nope.
But I'm sitting here looking at, and listen, I'm not sitting here saying, and I've told you before, we don't need a huge splash in free agency. We just don't need a huge splash. I get that. And Sutton was a nice piece. But sitting back, initial reaction, gut reaction, I'm sitting here like, maybe we might have created a monster by projecting this so doggone early that they're going to win. And I still think the Lions have the best trajectory out of any of the teams.
Yeah.
But I would like to see something else happen.
I think they gotta veer away from their normal path. Like you said, Brad Holmes always has a plan. He's been sticking with this plan for a minute. If it's any time to get aggressive and start making these splash moves, like you said, they might not need one. If this is the set and how the NFC North is moving up now, at least for the Bears, you got to get something to tip the balance. I wouldn't have paid what Tremaine Edwards got.
No. I wanted to address that next.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah. Let's do that. Go ahead.
So Tremaine Edmonds is going to the Bears.
Edmonds, yes.
Yeah, Tremaine Edmonds is going to the Bears for 4 years. I think it's like $75 million with 50 guaranteed. It's 18 average annual salary or average value.
Yep.
And when the news first broke and I saw Tremaine Edmonds to the Bears, I about wept. And then I saw that number. Yeah. And I said, okay. I feel much better about the fact that we didn't sign him for that much. I was good in the 11 to 15 million per year range. I would have been fine with that. 18's pushing it a little bit, and I hate that we have to play against him. I really do. But they signed all these linebackers to cover tight ends, and we have invested pocket lint into tight ends, which is fine. I'm fine with that. No big deal, right? We had exclusive right free agents that we signed. Shane Zylstra, Brock Wright, they're going to be back with the team on league minimum salaries. Benito Jones is also going to be back league minimum salary, and Daly, the long snapper, is also going to be back on a league minimum salary. They did also sign the Lions' Craig Reynolds back. So that running back room does have two people in it right now, DeAndre Swift and Craig Reynolds. Even though he was an exclusive rights free agent, they signed him to more than what the league minimum is, even though I don't know as of right now what that number is specifically.